Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Rei-Lin and I'm bringing you some more Armored Warfare today. Today is patch 0.16 day. They've released a huge update to Armored Warfare, fixing a lot of complaining, reoccurring problems like shot delay and graphical frame problems, and updated engine sounds, gun sounds. Just overall the sound is now improved drastically in the game, along with 3 new PvE maps. The loot system is now in. There's just change upon change upon change in Armored Warfare, and it's all for the better. And I think a lot of people may end up coming back to Armored Warfare if they had left just being a little bit bored. However, with that, they also decided that they wanted more premium tanks, and they've actually added 2 new premium tanks to the game. One is a tier 7 tank destroyer called the Assaulter, and this one, which is part of, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, the Bastille Day Package deal. Now, this is a tier 8, so it is the first tier 8 premium to be put in the game, the AMX 10 Renault Cannon Renové, or basically Wheeled Cannon Renovated. It's an updated 10RC, and it was given several upgrades in real life that was completed in 2010. So, we're going to jump in and see kind of what we're going to see on this. If you're not interested in listening to me talk about the stats, you can click up at the top of your screen, go right to the replay, see how this thing does in some gameplay. Now, I will say right off the bat that this is the most expensive package deal that Obsidian has thrown at us yet. It is a tier 8, and thus the cost has gone up significantly. Instead of just being like the tier 7s at 5,500 gold, this thing's going to run you 9,000 gold. That is, of course, if you could buy this in-game, which you cannot. You can only get it on the website until the 23rd of July. It does come in a bundle, just like the XM1 FSED tank. However, this one costs a little bit more, at 13,450 gold, and you can only buy it with gold. What you get for that price? You get the tank itself, worth 9,000 gold, you get 30 days of premium time, worth 2,180 gold, and you get another 4 million credits, which is going to run you 2,500 gold. If you were to buy all of these pieces separately, it's going to basically run you a lot more than 13,450 gold. You'll actually save yourself 230 gold. You end up spending over 13,680 gold. So overall, if this sounds like a good package and you're not just wanting the tank itself, if you need a little bit of premium time and you need a little bit of credits and you want a new premium tank, this isn't a horrible deal, but again, you have no way to just buy the tank, and that's probably the biggest downside to the whole spiel. And they're going to end up having a new collector edition on top of that. That's going to get you the M60-2000 and the Challenger 1 Falcon. I'll be doing reviews of those as soon as they're made available, but I suspect that those are going to come with other perks as opposed to just those tanks. I'm sure it's going to be another $70 to $100 worth of tanks, hopefully, but we'll see. But anyway, this is the tank I wanted to focus on, and this thing is a lot of fun. For a tier 8, it pretty much matches exactly the normal tier 8 in the tree in a lot of ways, but this one does have the Bastille Day paint job on it, and it is unique to wield tank destroyers because this thing can actually turn just like a tracked vehicle. It can be sitting still and spin 360 degrees with its hull. That in and of itself makes it really fun to play. Although, because it is like a tracked vehicle, but it has wheels, this thing is a little bit funky to drive, and I've ran into plenty of rocks and stuff so far because this thing has a tendency to want to slide as you oversteer or understeer this thing. It's not quite the same as all of the other wheeled vehicles in the game, and you will probably see some of that in the replay. But let's talk about the stats. Right off the bat, I want to jump in here, and I'm going to grab the normal tier 8 tank destroyer out of the tree, just because I put a little bit more effort into this since the prices of these things are going up, and I don't actually own any of the wheeled tank destroyers. I wanted to compare them side by side with the upgrades that I will talk about. So right off the bat, again, damage 595, good, penetration 544. Now this is a stock M1128. However, I do have the values if you were to upgrade this thing to the max. This is modified by my crew and my retrofits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare apples to apples here. If I go down here, the armor piercing damage is 554 with 544 millimeters of penetration. The armor piercing, the best armor piercing round that the M1128 gets, will have 554 damage per shot, so exactly the same here, but it has 588 millimeters of penetration, which is a lot more than the AMX. So damage is identical, penetration slightly higher. If we go over to the heat round on the AMX, the damage jumps up quite a lot to 693 per shot, when the penetration drops to 479. The 1128, the heat is 693 damage, which again is the same as the AMX, but the penetration jumps to 480 millimeters of pen. So it gains one more penetration on its heat round over the AMX. So damage and penetration wise, these tanks are basically identical. So keep that in mind, that the damage here is pretty damn close, even once they're upgraded. Now, I'm sure the 1128 is still going to be slightly more than the AMX overall, just because, again, this is taking into account my crew and my retrofits. Damage per minute, obviously very significantly higher at 7,656 damage per minute, which is awesome. But a lot of that comes from this 4.67 second reload time. This thing is just a DPM machine. You want to get this sucker anywhere you can to the sides or the flank of enemy tanks and just wail on them in a bush. This thing does that just like any other tank destroyer, but even more just because of the output of the damage. The 1128, I can't compare the damage per minute and what that would be, but I definitely know that the reload time will drop down significantly once you have got this thing fully upgraded. One thing that they did add to almost any kind of tank that has an auto-loading system, and since this is an unmanned turret, it is an auto-loading system, is when in the tech tree, they have improved autoloaders. If you put that on the 1128, it gains a rate of fire increase of 5% as long as it's not moving. And since you're a tank destroyer and you don't really want to be moving because you're going to use your camouflage to not be spotted because you have zilch for armor, that's a really good improvement. The AMX doesn't get that little bit of a boost, so overall the 1128 is still going to fire a little bit faster at the end of the day. Moving down, health, almost 2,000. Now this thing does have a retrofit slot for internal hull reinforcement, so of course I put some health on that, and the 1128 gets very similar to that. So don't worry that the health is going to be any lower between the two. But 1908 is okay. You can take a few hits with this thing, but don't think this is built to stand up to much punishment. The biggest difference is right here with the armor. This thing on the hull in the front gets 140 millimeters, on the side 85, and in the rear 35. The 1128 just doesn't get armor anywhere. It just doesn't even matter. So ignore the armor on the M1128. It's not going to save you. On the AMX, however, the turret does get some decent armor. 140 in the front, 120 on the side, and 55 at the rear. However, this is aluminum, and you can see that the modifiers are crap. So all of these values are actually reduced by 0.1. So this isn't even that great to begin with, and it's actually going to end up being lower than that once you take the modifiers into account. This thing can bounce autocannons, but very rarely, because even autocannons at tier 8 and 9 and 10 will still punch holes through you. You do not want to go up against autocannons that can see you, because it will still shred you. You will get a freaky bounce now and then because the turret is okay and it's got a lot of sloping and weirdness to it. So it can bounce a few autocannons, but don't expect at tier 8 to bounce anything from anything else. Any other tank is going to punch holes right through you. Moving down to the speed. Now, the AMX is not the fastest or the fastest at accelerating, so 86.4 kilometers an hour is not bad, but you can already see the stock 1128 does even more than that. So right off the bat, the 1128 is going to end up over 110 kilometers an hour if you wanted it to. It's going to be very, very quick. 0 to 32 kilometers an hour on the AMX is 4.76. 0 to 32 on a stock 1128 is 5.3. So it is better, but once you get the upgraded engine, that number drops to 4.7 seconds, and it's actually under the AMX as far as mobility goes. The whole traverse, 49 degrees per second. Now keep in mind that this is a true traverse. It's not just how fast it steers, because this thing will spin 360 on a dime, whereas the 1128 cannot. And at that point, you're just looking right now at the difference with my crew and the handling of the tank. So the 1128 is still going to have a pretty good hull traverse, but this is more or less talking about how fast it can steer. So camouflage 0.28. You're not able to take the AMX and give it its own camouflage pattern. What you see is what you get. You get the Bastille paint job. So if that worries you, this is pretty good. Now the stock 1128 is still pretty damn good at 0.21 as its base. You throw a little bit of camouflage paint on this thing and they're going to be nearly identical. View range is affected by my crew and my retrofits, so the AMX right now has 475 meters versus the 417 meters of the 1128. This will go up, and it will nearly match the AMX point for point. The cannon depression on the gun is really good on the AMX at 8 degrees in the front, but only 4 over the rear, so this thing needs to be pointing pretty much straight forward to get the maximum on the gun depression. Over the sides, it's not 8, so keep that in mind. It's more like 5 to 6, just because you can see the angling on how the armor is here. On the 1128, now it's not as good over the front, and as you can see, there's a reason for that. This looks a lot like a much bigger expeditionary tank gun on a different hull. But because it is an unmanned turret, and it's just basically a gun on a swivel, over the rear, it gets 10 degrees of gun depression. So again, this is a tank destroyer where you may want to be sitting backwards and firing over the ass end of your tank as opposed to the front in most situations. This is also somewhat rear mounted on a turret. So very much like the expeditionary tank, you kind of want to be sitting backwards most of the time, poking backwards out around cover and shooting, and so you don't expose as much of your tank. The AMX doesn't get that. Your gun depression is best in the front, so keep that in mind. The accuracy, 0.08, is extremely good. There's nothing wrong with that, and it is, as always, improved by my crew. The stock, 1128, is 0.09, and this is going to drop underneath the AMX. At the end of the day, this thing's going to be a monster for accuracy, and that's a good thing. Aim time 2.09 seconds. It's not bad. I would like to see tank destroyers under 2 seconds, and I could improve that as my crew gets better, and if I pick different retrofits to improve that even more. The aim time on this stock 1128 is 2.9 seconds. Kind of long. Now you're getting to 3 seconds. It's kind of hard to aim at fast moving targets if your aim time is that high. But again, once this thing was bought and had its own crew and retrofits, that's going to be significantly reduced all the way down to about 2.32 seconds. And so keep that in mind. The aim time's a little bit better on the AMX, but not by much. Turret traverse, at 60.82 degrees per second, the AMX is very good on its turret traverse. And at 50 degrees, the 1128 is still good on its turret traverse, both of which obviously can be improved with the crew and the retrofits. So overall, the AMX is pretty much as good. It matches in a lot of ways the 1128 even once it's fully maxed out. Obviously you're trading a few things like the gun depression over the rear for slightly worse camouflage but slightly better speed. There's no armor here, but the AMX, like I said, this armor really doesn't count for a whole lot at tier 8. And so overall it's one versus the other. You get a little bit more damage out of the AMX than the 1128, but the 1128 gets more penetration than the AMX. It's also faster, like I said, and has better gun depression. So overall, these two tanks are very, very close statistically on paper. Now, as far as play style goes, As I said, the AMX is the first wheeled tank that I've seen in the game that can turn 360 degrees while sitting still. To a lot of people, that can make a complete, utter, huge difference. And whether that makes a huge difference to you is kind of up to you. But for the price that they're asking for this package, well, it's hard to recommend this tank simply because the Tier 8 pretty much does everything that this does. It just doesn't turn on a dime. That's really the biggest thrill of this tank, is that it's different. That is the only real discerning difference between the AMX and the 1128. It's just, is it worth that kind of gold? I mean, I would buy the tank at 9,000 gold. I would recommend the tank if you could go into the dealer tree and buy it for 9,000 gold. Fine. I like the tank. I've had a lot of fun with it. I didn't go down any of the lines for a wheeled tank destroyer. So if you're not interested in going down all the way to the actual Tier 8 wheeled tank destroyer line, then I guess this would be a very good purchase, because if you just want a tank destroyer, it's got wheels, but it drives sort of like it's on tracks, then yeah, this is pretty much perfect. And that might be what Obsidian is going for here. Is for the people that really didn't like the first couple of tank destroyers. It's like, oh, they're wheeled, they have no armor, blah blah blah, and hell with it, I don't care, and never got them. This might be the first time that anyone plays a wheeled tank destroyer in Armored Warfare, and it's really good, just considering that it almost matches point for point the normal Tier 8, even fully upgraded, and this is a premium tank. That's really good news. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about whether or not you want to buy this. Now, of course, as always, since it is a premium tank, I'm always boosting my premium tanks with Maximilian. If you don't have Maximilian, you might go with Sabrina Williams, because she does have some boost to camouflage and things that improve your survivability as long as you're not spotted. But otherwise, I always go with Maximilian. Crew, unfortunately, I'm not at level 4 yet. I just got this thing, and I've been playing the crap out of it. And so we're on the way. Off-road driving. This thing's acceleration is good, but man, it just feels like the ground resistances with the wheels is much worse than with tracks. So I went ahead and took off-road driving first, because I would rather have some good acceleration when I'm trying to juke shots once I get spotted and need to run away. This is definitely going to be a very big help. Spin to win, since this thing does have a hull traverse just like a tracked vehicle, I would probably take spin to win as my second skill. If you're deciding that you want to move around a lot, smooth ride may also be something of an option. Of course, battering ram is still completely useless. This thing is not built for ramming, so that is not going to be used. Quick draw aim speed improved by 10%. Now, the base aim speed on this is a little bit higher, obviously, than what you saw in the stat screen. So everyone can use faster aim time. I haven't really seen too many tanks that have such a low aim time that I'd be like, nah, I don't need it. Now, as far as the second one goes, I would probably do the twist, simply because the faster you can turn your turret, the easier it is to stay on target. And so generally that's kind of what I go. I get the aim speed down, and then I get the turret traverse up a little bit. Rate of fire increased by 2.5%. Tank destroyers live and die by their rate of fire. The faster they fire, the more damage they do, the faster they kill tanks, and not get killed by the return fire. You can pretty much get 2 shots out for almost every 1 shot that most other tanks are flinging at you, and you want to improve that as much as possible. So rapid fire. As far as the second one, I'm probably going to go with ammo swap speed with preparation here. This thing does get different shell types, and if you swap between them often, this improves that swap speed by 20%. Ammunition, the best available. It does get 3 different types. You should know by now that I'm never going to take high explosive into PvE. That's mainly what I do, so I don't take it. So for me, 2 types of shells. This thing does hold 50 rounds, but this is a tier 8, and there's going to be a hell of a lot more stuff out there with anti-high explosive, anti-tank plating. So do not take a full loadout of heat, or you're going to end up being somewhat useless to your tank as you flail this stuff helplessly at Terminators and Terminator 2s. So armor piercing is what I generally take the most of here. It's got good damage, it's got good pin, and of course the heat is there if you're running into like Stingrays and VFM5s and other lightly armored vehicles that don't have anti-heat armor. Consumables, obviously I am taking spare parts, energy drink, and the medical kit. These are the premium consumables. You could swap all of them out for their lesser expensive versions. You could throw out the energy drink for the protein bar, or even use one of the fire extinguishers. I've not been set on fire once in any tank ever in PvE. In PvP, this might be an issue for you, so you can just swap them out. The field rebuild kit. I'm never going into a PvE battle without this thing again. It is amazing. Basically, it's going to heal you to 100% and give you all your ammunition back if you're alive. If you die, this will let you respawn into the battle with 60% of your health and all of your ammo. So it's basically a get out of jail free card, and you pay for it by having it be significantly more money. Either one is good. Please pick one or the other if you're going to do PvE. It does make a big difference. Retrofits. This thing gets a universal slot, an armored slot, a firepower slot, and a tech slot. So one of all the flavors. I'm going with increasing the damage. It is a tank destroyer, so I definitely want the biggest damage boost that I can get with the experimental propellant. Armor, all I need is whole hit points. This thing doesn't need anything else other than health. The more health you got, the more hits you can take, because you just don't have the armor to put up with much punishment. Firepower slot, now you could go with almost anything under firepower. You could go with the chrome barrel lining if you wanted damage and getting the accuracy up there. I went with the gyroscopic stabilizers to up my rate of fire even more. The aim time also gets improved a little bit more. So overall, I think the gyroscopic stabilizers is better than just getting an extra 4.95% damage, because it really doesn't need any accuracy. Because I don't play this as a mobile tank destroyer. I just play it as a sit-in-the-bush, campy style of tank destroyer, similar to World of Tanks. So I think this is a pretty good option here. Technology, there's really not much you can take here. You can increase your vision range if you wanted to play more of a scout. You could go with the braided Kevlar wiring. It gives you crew stats and component saves, so your stuff doesn't break as often, which can be very helpful in battle. Security control patch. You could become a capture monster if you want to up this. But for me, I just went with a flat crew stat boost of 6.25%. These are completely interchangeable with anything based on how you want to play this thing. Now this is one of the improvements and additions to the game at 0.16 patch, and that is these insignias. And you can equip these one at a time. You can see them here. You can see how many you have. You can see all of these bonuses. Well, where do you get these things? You can probably notice this little crate sitting here. This is what they added. They've added loot drops. Whether you're in PvP or in PvE, you get these crates if you do well enough in the battle. It doesn't matter whether you win or lose. It's perfectly fine. It's all up to you. These are given out based on your personal performance. And these line up. As you can see, there's different levels of it. Bronze, silver, gold, and then platinum is one of the best. I got this one right here. And we could open it and watch the little animation. Ooh! And this is what you get. Sometimes you get some reputation. You get some extra credits. These insignias are where you boost your tank, your games. These are something that is used up one at a time in every battle. So you can see them down here. You can equip them down here, and that's what it is. Like if I want, this okay, provides 20% more commander experience. Well, my commander's level 5, so that's pretty much useless for me. But for your crew, you can boost that. You can boost your credit gains, your global reputation, and just your reputation in general. And all of these boosts last one battle. So as you can see, you can equip a lot of stuff to this tank, and any tank in the game really, and really start boosting it. If you're putting a lot of reputation and credit gains on premium tanks, you have a very good chance to do really well. This does a really good job of earning credits and reputation because it does so much damage. It is a DPM machine, like I said, but again, we're down to the same problems we had with the XM1 FSED, and that's the cost. If the tank was just 9,000 gold by itself, I would wholeheartedly say, yes, jump on this, get this tank. It is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It does have the unique ability to turn on a dime, and for some people, that means the world to them. But 13,450 gold is a huge chunk of money to throw at Obsidian at this point, because you're still paying a lot of extra for things that you don't necessarily need. 4 million credits. Now look, if it was 4 million credits and 30 days of premium at tier 7, I think since it's bumped up to tier 8, where hell, just one retrofit nearly costs 4 million, it should have been like 8 million or maybe 10 million with, let's say, 50 days of premium. Come on, give us a little bit more. And if you look down here, and I didn't mention this before, but you probably noticed, this isn't a level 5 crew. Okay? These don't come with a level 5 crew either. Now, all of these wolf tanks, like the Weasel 1, the Challenger, they all got level 5 crews for free. There was the cost of the tank, and they came with a level 5 crew. And these package deals are bullshit that they don't come with a level 5 fucking crew. I'm sorry, I don't like that at all. That's the worst part about it. It's a great tank, but it's a shitty deal to get the great tank. And I think that's what they're kind of relying on. Now, I don't want to say that that's all bad. Again, this is the first tier 8, so that is unique. It is unique that it turns on a dime and it's wheeled, so you get the best of both worlds as far as being able to go really fast with a wheeled vehicle, make sharper turns, and get into places a little bit quicker than most other tracked vehicles, but you still can drive it like a tracked vehicle. It is a tank destroyer, so you're doing shit tons of damage. It has a little bit of armor on it to bounce auto cannons, especially from the front. And it's just overall really fun. You know, the paint job isn't too obnoxious. It doesn't look horrible. Like most of the Independence Day, the XM1 kind of looked like, okay, whatever. But if you're going to buy this, only buy it if you've never gone down the wheeled tank destroyer line or you're a tank collector. This is a limited time offer on this. Again, July 23rd is the last time that you can buy this, and then it's going to move on to some other package deal. I'm sure going to be even more outrageous. I just can't recommend the package deal. I do recommend the tank to anybody. It is really fun, and I had a lot of fun doing replays with it. Speaking of replays, I do have one for you. This thing in PvE on one of the new PvE maps that they added to the game with patch 0.16, and you'll get to see how bad I am at driving this thing. Hope to see you on the battlefield. And here we are on the new PvE map, 1 of 3 that was added in patch 0.16. This is Erebus. And immediately, right off the bat, you can see how well this thing turns. And here in a second, you're going to see how terrible I am at kind of driving it because of that. It's a combination, basically, of wheels and tracks. But because wheels don't grip the same way tracks do, you essentially end up sliding around, and it's kind of tricky to drive. You see, I'm just kind of testing it here, and I've never been on this map. This is my first time playing this map. No idea where to go. Most of the team doesn't know where to go, so they just head for the objective. I was hoping very much that there was nothing up here that could shoot at me, because this tank has no armor to defend itself. But as soon as they started spotting tanks, I decided, well, I might as well get over here and get some crossfire going on, hopefully. And then I spot more tanks on the left. Thankfully, I was moving forward at a good enough speed that they were not loaded, or at least maybe they did not spot me until it was too late to shoot, because I would have gotten hit more than a few times in the side. And here I am with my terrible driving, trying to go back, and then I say, oh, it was an expeditionary tank. You have to take out the expeditionary tanks as soon as you can, because they have very, very punchy guns. And remember what I said about autocannons. They're not your friends. Terminator 2 coming around there would have been able to just eat me alive if he had continued on down the road. I backed off, and for some reason he decided that he wanted to stop and support his expeditionary tank. Now I take a hit here because my gun depression, as you can see over the side, is not good enough. It's not 8 degrees, so I could not hit him and took a hit. But I wanted to make sure I finished him off, because I have other tanks that he would basically be flanking if I just let him go, and be shooting my team in the ass with his high penetration, high damage gun. Somehow I get critical track damage by shooting, kind of where I thought it should have penetrated, but I can hit him in his big fat ass. The leopard there just leaves his butt hanging out wide open, and plus I'm above him, so I'm essentially shooting down on the top of the tank, which has little to no armor whatsoever. I go ahead and decide I might as well help my other fellow tank destroyer out and do some flanking here. Terminators, they generally have pretty good armor in the front. They're kind of hard to deal with, and the Terminator 2 gets a little bit more of everything, so I figured why not have some surprise butt sex and just take him out of the game, because between me and the Lav 600, we don't have the armor to stand up to autocannons. And the Leopard is being pretty smart. He turned all the way around, and suddenly we get some bosses, not just one, but two. I see the second one, and I decide I have to make a run for it. I have to get around this rock. I know I was probably going to take a hit, but I couldn't back away, or I would have taken multiple hits. Luckily, the second shot misses by a mile. Now, these is M1A1 Abrams, very tough tanks, but as long as he is facing his butt towards me, his side towards me, or the rear of his turret towards me, I could penetrate him. There he did a juke of his own, and he stopped just as I fired, and my shell whiffed just past his butt. But because he is still kind of turned sideways, I decided I might as well just keep throwing shots at him. I can hear when he fires. With the new improved sounds, it's very easy to tell when something has whizzed past you, or when they have fired. You hear it a mile away now, and it's really cool. So that's a helpful audio cue to know when you are safe to kind of move out. And the C1 looks like he's just hanging out. Maybe he's stuck, but he's definitely focused on me, and he can't hit me, but I can definitely hit him. A third boss spawns, and this is getting kind of tricky, because now you got a T90. T90s, they're not that bad to deal with, but they are big punchy guns. So you don't want to be standing out there when you have no armor dealing with T90s. Now, from the front, they're pretty hefty. The turrets are really good, but they do have a weak point right in the very front lower plate that you can penetrate. This gun has enough penetration kind of to go through even the upper plate if I get a good angle on him, but as you can see, most of it is red from this distance, and he's sort of hauled down. This one thing I dislike about some of Armor Warfare and their silhouettes is, unlike World of Tanks, it will show you the tank silhouette even if part of the tank is obscured and you cannot shoot it. Whereas in World of Tanks, you'll see a silhouette only on the parts of the tank that you can actually shoot, that aren't hidden behind a hill or a rock or anything like that. So I really wish they would change that, because I flubbed quite a few shots just because I thought, oh, there's the side of his tank, but really it was just barely the tip of his turret pointing out, or maybe just a part of his gun. Such as a tank like that, he could easily have half his hull covered, and I wouldn't know that because I can't see it. So here we go with another Terminator 2. It's Terminator 2 Judgment Day on this map, and they just keep coming. And luckily, I've got this building between me and him, or he would have torn me up really, really quick. He seems to be taking his sweet-ass time driving around, and as long as he continues to show his side, and I have this building to protect me, I feel confident that I can pretty much destroy him without much help. I got a friend that pulls up beside to help take some of the heat, but I know he was aiming at something other than what I was. I decided to finish off the Terminator just to get him out of play. I decided, okay, we're going to move up. It looks like it's kind of safe to move up, but then on my left here, I'm going to spot more tanks. Now this is where I screw up by going out here in the open like this. I wanted to pull up and support my Lav, but there's a lot of tanks right there, and it's not just that there's tanks here coming, and I have no idea how that didn't penetrate, but right there, something spawned behind us. But he literally spawned a second before I was destroyed. So I used my repair kit, and as you can see, I respawned. I got 60% of my max health, which is enough for now, and I got a full reload out of it, which is good because I was down to firing heat, and that's not too good. But since I knew where these targets were and coming back to support my team, I knew I could use the heat and my terrible driving. And then suddenly, tanks, and I was like, nope. But there's a reason for why these tanks spawn so far back from the rest of the team. Now I know I could beat his reload, and with the heat already loaded, I said, okay, I can go through him. 2 shots, boom, down. And I noticed that the objective has changed to exit. Now, this is something I have not seen before. Usually you just get everything destroyed and then cap a circle or a point, or just hold off for so long as you destroy wave after wave of tanks. This one you actually have to drive back across the map and leave via a cap circle. Again, oh, look at that, artillery, my favorite target ever. And I've still got the heat loaded. I probably didn't realize that I was on the heat when I was destroyed. It will not switch you back to normal stuff, and I decided, hell with it. We're just going to keep going, and right here you see that, bam, he's got ERA. Well, he doesn't go through that, so it was kind of a dumb move to even take a shot at him. But the other tanks there aren't ERA protected, and I know I can shoot through anything else besides something like a Terminator, Terminator 2. Again, I didn't know what to expect. Wasn't sure exactly where we were going. I assumed we were going for the red circle there on the east, pretty much where we started, but I didn't know if we were trying to make it in a different way. As you can see, everyone's kind of sort of driving and not quite sure where they're going either. So overall, it was in pretty good hands. I mean, nobody died, which is amazing for a brand new map like this with a team of people that, you know, just got randomly thrown in together. This guy, however, yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he thought something was going to spawn behind us, and so he just wanted to turn around. I would have probably not stopped dead in the middle of the road and then blocked that road, especially with the 2 tank destroyers moving at about 70 kilometers an hour, barreling right behind him. But in the end, this ends up being the end of the map. You just have to cap this circle. And I'm sure if we waited around, we have over 3 minutes, about 3 minutes left. And if we'd hung around for a little while, there may have been some more enemy spawns. But it didn't seem like anybody was in the mood to just be testing out that theory. So we ended up completing the map, getting a nice little cinema here with some explosions. And we ended up winning. And it was a pretty good game. I must say, I think they did a good job on this map. At least it's something different. And here we are back in the garage. Not too bad, not too bad. I'd already done my daily, so only 6,000 rep. Ended up coming in first on damage, despite the fact that I died and missed out on at least a few thousand damage. I ended up bouncing a little bit from the auto cannons from the Terminator 2s, but as you can see, this thing is very, very fragile. You definitely don't want to be taking hits from anything else. Overall, like I said, I think this tank is very good. It's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun driving it, and I still enjoy playing it. As a tank destroyer, I think it's pretty much on par with the M1128, as I said, but for the price tag that this package comes with, I just can't recommend it unless you're not interested in having any other wheeled tank destroyer and you just want to have a high level one to play around with. And the fact that it's comes with some credits and it comes with some premium time for that amount of gold, really I can't recommend the package, even though you save if you were buying all that stuff separately. To me, it's just not worth it. I think the tank itself is worth 9,000 gold because it is unique. It has that unique ability as a wheeled vehicle to turn like a tracked vehicle, and it has good gun depression. It does a lot of damage very quickly. It has enough armor to defeat a lot of autocannons and things like that, and it's fast. I mean, it's not as fast as the normal tier 8, but that's not that important. It does what it needs to do. It's a very good tier 8, but the package deal is just what bones it up for me. It may bone it up for you. Again, if you like that style, if you have not gone down the normal tank destroyer line, pick it up. It's worth it in that regard, just because, you know, you get a free tier 8 tank destroyer that's actually really good and on par with the actual Tech Tree's tier 8 tank destroyer, the 1128. So overall, good tank, bad deal. Hopefully they'll change that later. It'll be in the Tech Tree somewhere at some point, or maybe they'll add it to a different package deal that you can just get the tank. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I helped you out. If you did like the video, please press the like button down below. It does help out the channel. And if you haven't had a chance to subscribe to my channel, you can click down at the bottom of your screen right now, and that'll get you all the latest updates every time I upload a video, especially on Armored Warfare. Anyway, that's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll talk to you all next time.